I will now prognosticate on the Chinese economy. One, I disagree with the proposition that China will, quote, be the cause of the next global recession. I think there are ample existing global challenges which have got little to do with China at present, one of which is simply the appalling state of global trade, which is not an exclusively China phenomenon, but the product of, frankly, a set of global trade negotiations which have gone nowhere in a decade. And we don't yet have a TPP in operation, which only represents one slice of the global economy. And two, we have a problem globally in terms of what technology is doing in terms of the displacement of labour in a manner which represents a quantum change from previous periods in economic history. Let's just leave that to one side for a bit. On the Chinese growth rate, folks that I know in China who study the other barometers, which are called the Li Keqiang measures of the economy, electricity supply, exports, imports, things which have external barometers of measurement beyond the Central Bureau of Statistics in China, would tell you that the economy, in their view, is currently running at about 4. Okay, but what I have noticed in recent times is that the Chinese, for internal political and economic reasons, namely to ensure continued social stability, have calculated a long time ago that they need an economic growth rate of around 6% in order to ensure basic social stability, providing enough new jobs out there in the community for those emerging into the labour force, sufficient, although modest, increases now relative to the past in average incomes, and still bringing enough people out of poverty. So the practical question is, how do you get from 4 to 6? And the conclusion, I think, reached in Beijing in the course of the last 6 months is it ain't happening easily because globally it's a tough time on trade, which therefore directly affects Chinese manufacturers. Therefore, the only way to do that is to relax monetary policy. They've done that on 4 to 5 occasions, but with only negligible effect, or marginal effect, I should say. And now what you're beginning to see actually is a fiscal investment in infrastructure across the country of some order of magnitude, I would predict, north of 1%, which is underway as we speak. But the mathematics will, I think, actually add up to a growth rate north of 6. And so that is my robust prediction, quite apart from the central stats. That's what I describe as the porcelain view of the world.
Well, can I make one point here, if you don't mind? Very
Sure.
quickly. Which is that you spoke to, like at the outset, about the importance of people as well, as you saw in Australia. Here's one statistic about China which should make you think why 6% is not possible, which is that this is the first year where the working age population in China actually shrank this year, the first time that this has happened. They've been seeing a decline in their population growth rate, but now the thing is shrinking, the working age population. And we looked at 700 cases of this in the last 50 years. There's not been one economy which has grown at a sustained pace of 6% with negative working age population growth. Not one.
Except the counterpoint to that, my friend, is as follows. You've still got more than 100 million people out there in the countryside who are radically underemployed, who haven't been brought out of poverty yet and haven't effectively entered the workforce. So your point statistically about the ageing of the workforce, or the decline in the working population, is true, but frankly it's got at least another decade plus to run while a whole bunch of people move from the countryside and the cities and effectively enter the workforce for the first time. My final point on the economy is, yes, manufacturing down, yes, a problem in terms of the state-owned enterprise sector, but on the positive side of the ledger, you have now a significant explosion in the services sector, which is much more labour intensive than manufacturing. Secondly, you have a modest continued increase, as Josette said before, in private domestic consumption. And on top of that, you start to see other emerging positive structural changes in the economy as well. So it ain't smooth sailing, but that's why I would come in for a number in real terms north of 6.